Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a choral fanatic.
But generally, I'm standing here for women.
A prolific writer, a podcast presenter that profiles practitioners.
In fact, moving forward, we won't be having audience. We are just a special one.
An MC, a smile ambassador, opinion donor.
You see, we start there. Are we able to assist each other as women?
Yes.
And we protect each other.
A pioneer that forged relations with think-alikes to re-engineer the choral space.
Welcome to the Choral Space Re-Engineered New.
She is ZimSix6, better known as ZimSix6.
Welcome to another exciting episode of ZimSix events and promotions, whereby we are re-engineering choral space. My name is ZimSix6, and I'm better known as ZimSix. I hope the guest I'm having for you today is going to be of excitement and is going to be interesting for you as we are learning from our elders. Welcome, Dad.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here.
How are you today?
I'm very fine. I can't be more than...
I'm sorry for dragging you out of your comfort so that you can come and share your wisdom with us.
Yeah.
But I think in order for us to know where we are going, we should know where we're coming from.
Yes.
Let's welcome you, and also you can introduce yourself. I don't want to short circuit to your profile. I want you to tell us, who are you?
Okay. This is Ludumo Magangane. Grew up in Kwatema. But I started school in a farm school where my parents were teaching. My father was the principal. Where in 3 years, we spent in one class because you had to do standard 4, standard 5, standard 6 in one class. That's how farm schools were sometimes arranged during those years.
It doesn't discourage that you are not changing classes?
No, it didn't. Not at all.
You knew that you passed it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And even then, you didn't get a report. Assembly was called, and then the names were called. That these are the ones who passed.
Why didn't I study that? I would have finished matric at 12. Because I would ask you, no, you called my name.
Anyway, then I went to a secondary school. Because, this thing of being a teacher's child, you get into school a bit earlier than other children. So I was the youngest. Even when I got to secondary school, and I had this inclination to want to belong to the school choir. I couldn't sing at primary school because we attended school with big boys and big girls. There was no age limit during those years. So I could not get into the school choir. But then when I got to secondary school, then I started singing. But still, I was amongst the youngest even there. I remember one of my teachers looking at me funnily and said, "Are you also a member of the choir?" I said, "Yes, I'm singing." So I sang there into high school, then went to University of Zululand with the idea of doing a diploma, 2-year diploma, to come back and teach because my parents were teachers. We got there, we were sold a new degree, which was called Bachelor of Pedagogy. So I got into that. Then the late Professor Mngoma joined the university at the invitation of the university.
Okay.
And we were told that there's going to be a degree in music that was going to be starting the following year. Now, that was 1975 when they told that.
Yo.
I know I made a mistake of mentioning it.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We didn't say we are bringing youth. We said we're bringing wisdom, so it's okay.
Yeah. So I then told my parents, look, there's an announcement that was made by the late Vice Chancellor Professor Isinkabinde, to the fact that there's a music degree that's going to start, and I think I want to go that direction. And the first question I was asked, I couldn't answer. What are you going to do with music, a music degree? I was like, well, I don't know, but my heart tells me I must go that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you think your love started from singing at high school, or it has always been there?
It's always been there. The music influence was quite, I would say, quite strong in the home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my mother would sing at any given time, whether washing dishes, ironing, cleaning, whatever. She would be singing, and to a very large extent, she would be singing hymns. You know, she was Methodist. May her soul rest in peace. So I'm Methodist too. So I learned a number of the hymns from her, just from her singing the hymns. But anyway, every evening we would sing before she prayed, before we went to bed. So the music thing was always
there
around me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the question they asked you, what are you going to do with music? What did you say? I'm interested to know the response. And how did they even get convinced that you can do the music degree?
Yeah, I think when those years when I used to talk to my friends, I would say that's the first time I think I actually went against my parents' wishes. I went ahead anyway, and then all they could do was just to allow me and give me the support.
Okay.
Until I finished the degree, and then by the time I finished, I already had a teaching post. Well, it was those years. It was good. And as I was finishing, I knew I was going to Kenneth Masekela High School.
Okay.
And did some bit of teaching of music, but it did not go very well because it didn't go up to matric. That's number one. Number two, there were no instruments then, unlike now, where there are magnet schools which were giving instruments and all that. During those times, there was nothing. So we felt, okay, let's shelve this. But I continued with conducting the school choirs. In fact, I would train for everybody and then give each person a choir depending on the number of children who wanted to come. Because during those years, unlike with Tirisano and then later Saske, where it was said one choir per school, I think, we could produce any number of choirs depending on
the number of schools. Because obviously, if you are talking a school with 1,200, how do you reduce the number to 60?
Exactly, because the first thing I did when I arrived at that school, I just went from class to class to say, those are interested in singing, come join me at 2:00 after school at center, whatever. There were centers that we were using there, and they came in numbers. There's a year where we actually had 4 mixed choirs. The fourth one being mine, of course, because I had to select the best, but 3 others. 3 other choirs.
So you took the cream of the crop.
Well, we had to do that because we knew that we are going out to fight. So you've got to fight with the best. So I would then start rehearsals early in the morning at 7 before we start with classes. So all those who were prospective conductors would then join me during those rehearsals and join me in the afternoon and join me during the holidays around Easter and all the type of thing. Because we would teach, then break up, and then have choral practices.
Okay, you made a nice comparison, like when you said unlike currently, and it's a good thing that you brought me into that space, because one of the reasons why we having you is because we want to get wisdom from how you were doing things, and also we compare with how we are doing things, and also try to merge so that we can be in a position to re-engineer the space, because obviously there are lessons that can be learned from how you were doing things. And also probably the technology is going to make us look like we are advanced, and yet so so you currently we are struggling with Izgolo, with even like we're talking about 1,200 learners in a school, but you are scraping to get 60 voices because kids are not interested in singing. the school is not interested in that extracurriculum. And so your view on extramural activities for a child, how important it is for a child to do it?
Extramural activities are very, very important. I'm talking both as a choral musician or a choral practitioner and also as a parent. God gave us 3 children with my wife, and we took a decision that we're going to expose them now because of some of the problems we saw in the educational system. We took them to a private school. Now, it was not one of those private schools where there are lots of extracurricular activities. In fact, there were very few, if any. So we took them, all 3 of them, because of my background, to piano lessons.
Okay.
And then the piano lessons went together with the music theory lessons. But of the 3, it's our youngest who followed music, but not mine. She actually said to me, if I do music, it won't be your music talking to me. So she did a degree in vocal jazz.
Okay.
But she's not, I would say she's not practicing at the moment because of the music scene or the art scene in the country. It takes, I don't know what, for certain performers to really make it locally. So she then, as she was teaching music, she did a certificate online on digital marketing. She got that, then applied to New York University, went there, did a master's in digital marketing. So she's working now for, I wouldn't say for Samsung, but she's working for a company that is servicing Samsung overseas in New York. But whenever she gets a chance, she sings. She was just last week, Tuesday, she was at Carnegie Hall backing Zolani, the one of Freshly Ground. Mawala. She was singing with Zolani Mawala at Carnegie Hall. I mean, Carnegie Hall is one of the biggest things you can ever dream of, to go and sing there. So when she does get time, she does, because her heart is still in music. But she realizes that this world is not very kind to artists.
You are already on 2030, and yeah. I'm still working with you from 20. I was still in 1975, so I can see that you are already ahead of me. But that is cool, yeah. Because it's a conversation. It's nothing formal. Whereby hey, you have to answer and you must be politically correct. No. It's just a conversation. Yeah. I want us to pack that.
Yes.
To pack the role of music in the country, or the art sector in the country. Mm-hmm. I want us we're gonna go back to that, because I think it's the one that is gonna take us to where we are going.
Yes.
Now, you participating. You are having the school participating in the events, in the thing, and then did you struggle with competitions within the schools whereby you okay, fine. Probably you did not, because you're already competing with your 4 other teachers at school. So by the time you go to the competition outside, it's already... I'm trying to get an understanding. Did you have healthy competitions whereby the neighboring school can come and get training from your school? You exchange programs whereby I can assist you with this, I'm good at that, and so that by the time you go and represent, let's say, Ekurhuleni, I don't know how you when you go and you are representing it as a united front type of thing.
Yeah. Well, I can talk about that for days on end. One, because of at that time, I was almost the only person who had a qualification in music. So I think that did the rounds very quickly. So one day I was preparing, I think I just finished a rehearsal for the boys' choir. Then somebody comes to where we were and then says, no, there's a teacher who would like to talk to you. So I go over to the office. I find this guy, I didn't know him at the time. He comes from another school in the same township. He introduces himself and he says, look, I'm new in the school where I am, and I've been given now. Again, those were the years where teachers would be given choirs. Sometimes we are given and we know nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, so he was one of those that has been given a boys' choir in his school, and he was told about me. So he's come to ask for help from me. So I said to him, "Oh, you just missed us. If you had come maybe about 30 minutes earlier, you would have sat in as I was rehearsing the boys." Then we made an appointment that I would come over to his school to help him out. Unfortunately, when I got there, I didn't find him. I didn't find his choir. Then when I inquired, they told me now the sports master took all the boys to the soccer field and all that. Then I heard the choir singing, and I just thought, let me just go and peep. It was a mixed choir, and it happened to be conducted by a relative of mine. So she was so happy to see me. "Oh, please come in," and all that. But I'm trying to indicate that I was ready to go and help. He also didn't see anything wrong to say, "I can't be sent to a person I'm going to compete with or whatever." He knew that he needed help, and he was told that's the person who can help you. That's number one. Number two, I had a friend, may his soul rest in peace, Mandla Kumalo. He was at Tsakani. Him and I were keen competitors whilst being friends. So when my choir would sing before his, I would then find out, ask him, "What do you think?" If his choir sang after that, then he would come to me and say, "What do you think?"
Okay.
Then we would exchange notes and whatever. And we also had adult choirs.
Oh.
Yeah, both of us.
Okay.
So we had 1 year we had an elimination of the NCF, and Dr Ludumo was lucky to have gone through. So I had visited him in his home. So we got talking then about just the previous competition. Then he says to me, "You'll never." I don't know whether he did listen to us. I said, "No, I did not." He says the audience laughed at my choir. I said, "Why did they do that?" So it was just a case of his soloist, a male, when he was supposed to tackle a top note in the solo that he was singing, his voice cracked. Now, the audience, as soon as they know the song, then they can follow what is happening. And as soon as his voice cracked, the audience just burst out laughing. So he quickly went, and it was during the times of cassettes, right? He brought his cassette player, and because he had the habit of recording his performances during competitions. So he then played this thing. Then I heard how this guy cracked. I thought, wow. But I felt that was a very unkind thing for the audience to do, but our audiences are like that. 3, now to finally. There's the late Mr. Mahlase, who was a conductor of Davidson Adult Choir. Very good musician, very good tenor singer himself. So we would invite him. I would invite him to my choir, to my school choir. Mandla would invite him to his school choir. And then he would then schedule his time that he'll be with me at this time, and then he'll be with Mandla at this time. And when he leaves me, he tells me he's going to Mandla. He doesn't hide it. And I wouldn't then say, "But why did you not tell me? I wouldn't have asked you to come to me," or whatever. It was a healthy thing.
It was a healthy thing. It was brotherhood.
Yes.
It was brotherhood.
That was what it was.
It must have been nice to be the only one with a qualification. It must have been nice. So, if you were, did you get paid for assisting the schools, like your neighboring schools?
No, we were not paid. We didn't ask for money.
Okay. No, I'm getting somewhere. I'm getting somewhere with this. So you didn't get paid, even with the qualification?
No, not at all.
So it was, okay, I think I understand the question, Bazalbako. What are you going to do with the music?
Yeah.
Because now you are not bringing money from the music, and yet you are doing it, but you are getting emotional fulfillment.
I even taught music theory for nothing in the township. I taught my members of the youth choir. In fact, I enrolled them for music examinations. So they wrote grade 1, grade 2. I think we went up to grade 3 or 4, whatever. And then others on their own continued. Another one went and did music at the very university where I was.
Nina basimoshile babangela uba i-choral music ingabikho unfortunately ingabinamali, ingabikho financially viable because your passion precedent everything. Because if you look at the current genres, baphinda into eyi-one, uzima asinxibe iskipa esimhlophe, and then they make money. And yet, Nina, you are precise. You know the notes, you know the music, and you don't want to get money for it.
No,
now you see where things went wrong. Yeah, I think we are getting some.
But I learned as I went along. For example, if I were to meet my counterparts from other parts of the world, then now there was a time when I was conducting the school choirs, conducting the church choir, which I still conduct up to now, and conducting the youth choir and Bonisutu choristers. So then I remember one of my trips overseas, and we got talking with some of the musicians I met there, and they themselves were the church organists and conductors of church choirs. Then one of them asked me, do you the same question you're asking me, do you get paid? I said, no, it's not done. In where I come from, where just because I'm conducting the church choir, I've got to expect to be paid. Then he said, for us it's a job, and we are paid.
It is
to conduct the church choir. The church pays us. I thought, oh, okay. So if I wish I could just
relocate,
leave South Africa and go over there, and I would get paid.
And then you are taking us to the arts sector in the country. And when we quickly get to there, and that's not how I wanted us to go. But I wanted us to even to talk about. In fact, we're gonna park that, and then talk about the. In fact, when you were mentioning that the soloist cracked and the audience was unkind.
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the reasons I started the profiling, the one that I was doing when I profiled you, was I realized that we only look at the choir when it's on stage, the 5 minutes it's singing the song. We're not giving cognizance of what has happened before today. Remember, some people are rehearsing in a classroom, and then they're performing in a huge hall.
Yes.
Anxiety, shock, and everything happens, and nerves. But we never consider that. So I think that's when I started doing the profiling to say, who is this person? If we see you conducting, who is this person? So I started to conscientize people about the face behind the choir, the name, and everything. That's how it started anyway. In fact, for us to even have the podcast now. Yeah. So it has grown from there to say, for me, it's an issue of development. It's an issue of moving forward to say, how do we change the space? How do we make the space conducive for everyone in it? And also teaching each other the behavior of how to behave within a particular space. So I'm just passing on that regarding the recording aspect of it, whereby the audience was laughing at the soloist. So now let's go to the arts sector in the country, and I want us to link it to the curriculum.
If you don't mind.
All right, cool.
Just by again some other, which I think is very important, background is to actually for us to be here in terms of singing with choirs. What happened and when did it happen? I won't give a lecture.
You can.
I
You
promise.
can. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We have a full hour to talk.
Now, we all know that we were, well, some came before the others. They were missionaries, they were colonizers. But our education was formed by the missionaries mainly. Okay. And they are the ones who brought the music. They are the ones who brought the singing culture in the Western way, and particularly in the English way. So then they introduced music even in their colleges, because they felt they had to have colleges now that the education was expanding and all that type of thing. And their teachers were being trained. They also had to be preachers.
Okay.
So when they came out, they could then be used in churches and all that type of thing. Now, the music that our choirs then, and Jamzash and all those people of those times, they got used to music that was brought to them, which belonged to what we either call the Elizabethan era or even the Victorian era, very old eras before your Baroque and coming down this way. And so the colleges were responsible for producing choir directors or choir trainers.
Okay.
Yeah, that is where the training of choir conductors came from. It was the colleges. Even when the government of the time had taken over education, but the colleges still continued to churn out teachers who were interested. If you were interested in doing choral music, then you would get a person, also I would say qualified, but not through university, but having learned a number of things and having learned tonic solfa. And some of those composers of those times even did some certificates on tonic solfa from tonic solfa colleges in London. So again, an example is Jamzash himself. He was a graduate of one of those colleges. So then here come the late Professor Kabingom. He has trained as a teacher, but left teaching amongst those who left in protest of the introduction of band education, then went and did other things. But he had music in his heart. And he formed, firstly, the Ionian male choir, and then the ladies joined, and then there was a mixed choir. He started an orchestra on his own. Now, that is why he was then invited to come and start a music degree at the University of Zululand. One of the things he taught us, that's why I took a long detour. One of the things he taught us as music students, he said, you are going to be in demand outside here as music students. There's a lot of choral music activity. And at that time, it was just competitions, school choirs and teachers' choirs, before we had adult choirs and other things like those. So he then taught us how to adjudicate. Amongst other things that he taught us in terms of music, he then sat us down and says, this is how you adjudicate. I remember very well him saying, you have only about 3 or 4 minutes to adjudicate a choir. That's the time you'll have. There's no time where you'll sit, listen, and then as they walk off, you start writing. There's nothing like that. As they sing, you've got the copy in front of you, and you give your own assessment of what that choir has done according to this music. And at that time, we sat individually.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, so it's not new, because currently I think that's what is
being done now.
It's done.
Yes.
It has been resuscitated naturally.
It has been resuscitated. Why it changed at that time to the group type of thing where the 3 adjudicators sit down and then discuss. It was, I think, because of the late Mr. Ludwaba, who had gone to Hlangoshen, and I think he saw the system there. He was one of the big chiefs in what was known as TUATA, Transvaal United African Teachers Association, and he introduced this system.
Okay.
So adjudication has been undergoing changes from time to time in the country.
Just like any other thing.
Just like any other thing,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah. So that is where we come from, and but then singing is. I always say singing is unlike athletics. You see a person being outrun, or boxing, the person gets knocked out, and that's it. Now with singing, you have to have the trust of the people who've been given the task of selecting the best choirs.
So the people that are sitting in the panel must have integrity.
even before integrity, they must have the knowledge.
Knowledge, yes.
They must have worked with choirs. You see that there are some other times we find that ZimSix6 is taken to come and adjudicate because you've seen ZimSix6 in choral music events, but you don't know what ZimSix6 has
Can
done,
do.
what and can do, and can she stand in front of a choir, start a song from scratch up to the end, and then go and perform it and all type of thing. So it depends. I always say, whoever is given the task of having to find adjudicators must be knowledgeable. Because how do you decide, I'm going to ask that one to come and adjudicate? Now, in my case, because I was not known when I started teaching, I was introduced by the veteran conductors and adjudicators I found on the field. Like there's a Mr. Judah Kope, the late, and may his soul rest in peace as well. He just, if they knew somebody, they would say, Mr. Kope, we've got a competition. They'd write him sometimes a telegram.
Telegram.
Yeah. Then bring somebody. That's how they do it. They don't say, Mr. Kope, come. Then they say, so-and-so come. They say, Mr. Kope, then bring somebody. So he would then phone me. Eamon, there's a competition happening in Sishiko or whatever. Are you available? Date this, that. Yeah, I'm available. So that's how he's one of those people who really introduced me to choral music around the then PWV and even the Transvaal later on. But I worked with other veterans as well, apart from him, but he's one of the first people who took me under his wing.
Under his wing?
Yeah.
Who are you taking under your wing? I'm joking. Now, I know you have taken a couple of people. That one does just a commercial break. Because if I were to ask you, it would mean that we must move this conversation to the bigger space, because everybody would want to testify. I'm one of them.
Yeah.
You mentioned something. Okay, you mentioned something about recording. You know that we're not allowed to record now. The recording, the competition. When there's a competition, it's not allowed.
Because you can do things and then go and sell that or whatever.
No, I don't think so. I think one of the reasons, like, you are taking information from the choir that is performing, and then you to go and better your choir, something like that. So it's prohibited.
My goodness,
it's prohibited. As a result, I think it's one, and at times there's not even an official recording of the event that would say, let's build this music for radio stations, for any broadcast and stuff. We end up not having any music archived somewhere for listening pleasure. We will only wait for the final, and then the final will cater those few choirs that have won. So our music is diminishing in between.
There's too much suspicion.
Anyway, we spoke about art sector in the country, and I said we're going to link it to curriculum.
Yeah.
I know you're a maths teacher.
Yes.
I know you're a maths teacher. And there was a statement that was done by one of the ministers, I think during the pandemic, that the country needs to stop producing artists. Artists, I think something like that. It's just that I can't quote her in verbatim what Naledi Pando said. The country needs scientists, the country needs everything else, not art sector. So I want your view on curriculum, arts in the country, and your understanding and your view. This is your view. And no aside, you can say anything. Safe space.
Yeah, let me start off first on this with this one angle. When you walk as a teacher, you walk into a classroom full of children. Well, I don't know now, but we were taught that there is this distribution, the graph, that tells you that on the one end, the lowest end of the graph, you'll find some of those kids who struggle. On the other low end, you'll find your sparks. Then right in the middle, you'll find the many children who do pass, but don't pass like this other little group here. when these get A's, double A's and B's, these get from your C's to D's to E's, but which are still pass marks. Now, that's one thing. Number two, children, for them to find a niche as to what could I do after leaving school, they have to be exposed. That is why at the lower end in a high school, they'll do almost everything. And then depending on their results, then we start channeling them either to mathematics and commerce, mathematics and science, or the what do you call it now? Wrong age now in humanities. And not every child will be an advocate. Not every child will be a doctor. Not every child will be a cost accounting clerk. They are given differently. We taught kids who would bunk school at any given whim. This child is absent and all that, but when the sport, it's that child's time to shine. Now you want to take that child and go and throttle him or her with mathematics, with physical science, which he or she can't do. And I've heard people who say every child should be exposed to pure maths. Every child can. There's a teacher who was from Zim who was saying every child can do mathematics. I thought, I wonder where he comes from. Because we've taught this particular subject, and we have had stars in mathematics. We have had average students. We have had a bit of strugglers. I have had some children who I thought, look, these poor kids seem to be struggling so much. Let me organize some extra time, extra lessons for them. I realized with one of those girls that year that I was actually traumatizing her by trying to make her
assist her.
Yeah, I realized now, look, this girl is not going to crack this thing. I must just accept it. And let me not just traumatize her because I may cause her to stay away from school. Because of this one subject. So, the minister is mistaken to say we should stop. Because you'll be killing those children, one. You'll be killing the country as well. I mean, as South Africa, in various genres of music and performance, we're the toast of the world. Just before we started this conversation, I spoke about Pretty End. I had the fortune of conducting her in the Mass Choir Festival just before she left off to go to where she started, up until she was winning anything that was on offer overseas, until she serenaded a whole King Charles, when he was inaugurated. Exactly. So if she did not do music, how would she have done that? She would never have been able to do that. So that's the first biggest denial from me, that you can't deprive children of that. Number two, the system in the country has got to make sure it produces the required engineers and everybody else. But now the problem is schools are competing to teach mathematical literacy. They are competing to teach mathematical literacy. Where does it take the children to? Nowhere. It's a cul-de-sac, as they say in driving parts. So we've got to sit down and be honest. When I started teaching, I also got this story that, is this subject, it's failed. Children fail this subject. And when I looked at the schedule the first time, I thought, looks like they are telling the truth. But then I sat down and say, what are the reasons? I was still a young boy then, young teacher. Why are they failing? And I also listened when we had what we called refresher courses during those times. And I remember one instructor, African speaking lady, she said, your children don't pass mathematics because they don't pass geometry. It was then. Said they can do well with algebra, maybe some little bit with trigonometry, but even then not that much, but geometry completely. And I thought, so that's where the answer lies. Then I decided all my children from the low classes up to grade 12 were going to have extra
Geometry class.
Yes. And it flipped the results for the maths students, maths and science, maths and accounting. Because you just need to find out what their problem is.
Instead of treating the symptoms.
Exactly.
Treat the cause.
Go to the cause. Find the cause. What is the cause? So because when to go back to the university, my university experience, when we would have concerts, we would go to what was called then Durban Westville. I think it was fused now together, which is now University.
DUT.
No, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would have those concerts. And we would be told, no, that gentleman who's accompanying the choir, he's actually lecturing in a different discipline. He's not a musician. He's not lecturing in music. But he's there in the concert and he's playing the piano. So you've got to give people much exposure. And then they will decide which way to go. Don't channel. A fellow practitioner is late now, the late Ndate Masote. He said to us, I was faced with a dilemma. I had my son. I won't give his name now because he didn't give me permission. I had my son and my daughter. And my son really wanted to do music, and he went, and I allowed him to go that direction. But my wife and myself decided that this one, their daughter, is not going there. She would rather go the academic way and do other things. Indeed, she did that. I don't know what she ended up with, but she became a professional in that. Now, here's a person who has started schools in the township to teach children how to play the violin and other instruments of the orchestra. Looking now at his situation, that, okay, it's fine, I was teaching those kids, the parents brought them, but now here are my kids. And what is the situation? What is the future that I want for these children? Rather, let me have one who'll go the music way, but the other mustn't.
It happens.
Difficult decision
To make, yes.
Yeah, as a parent. Yeah.
So, okay, now, the country, you mentioned your daughter that she's overseas, and because the country does not embrace art.
No.
In its form.
No.
And, okay, without closing it to choral music, I'm just looking to say the art sector itself in the country, it's not embraced. You'll find people, okay, they artistically, I think we are God-given talent.
Yes.
We can turn stones into bread and everything.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the actual management of the artist itself, I think that's where the problem starts.
Mm-hmm.
That there's no proper management. There's a gap. There's no. I'm not sure who should manage. Let me put it that way. There's no proper management,
mm-hmm.
and there's no proper support of the art sector. Hence, we'll find that ZimSix6 in 2024 is a superstar in 2030 she's asking for donations, does not even have a house, and how do we close the gap?
Our field is actually very wide. Also made wide by the fact that the practitioners are very mixed, in the sense that there are some of the genres that will push you towards having to learn to go to school. There are other genres you just need to be gifted, and you get there or pick up your guitar, you're able to tune it, you string something together, and there you go. But when you look at the entire music scene, or the entire art scene for that matter, you will find that in many instances, it doesn't give you a steady inflow of income. There'll be times where you'll shoot up. Now, I sometimes say, when God created us, artists, gave us all these abilities to sing, to whatever, He deprived us of managerial acumen. As a result, many of our artists, when they see the money coming in, and with some of them in buckets full, they live for now. They forget there's a tomorrow. They forget there's a period where you may have a big concert in April, which gives you lots of money. And during the times of CDs, or even before CDs, you would say, my CDs have sold this much and all that. But now there's coming a time where you yourself may dry up in terms of the creativity. Now, what happens at that time? You've already bought a house, or you're already leasing a house at an exorbitant amount per month. It's not yours.
Because you want to live large.
You want to live large. That is where the big problem is. So, and I think there's also this notion of saying, yeah, if I have a manager, it means I'm the one who's working now. Why must I pay him or her or whatever? Whereas that person will help you manage your money better. And of course, if he's going to do that, or she's going to do that, she must also get paid, because she's gone to school for that management.
True.
Yeah. So she'll be able to look for jobs for you. It won't just be your name, that, oh, if you have so and so, you're set.
So it's essential. It's essential that one must have a manager.
Once you go the direction of, I want a career in art. In art, then you must have a manager. You may not start with a manager immediately. Start small on your own, and then when you see that at least things are shaping up, then find somebody. Maybe not an expensive manager, but somebody. Okay, fine. It also goes with trust and everything like that, because some people have been messed up in the process and whatnot. We, unfortunately, you can't help that. We live in it's a real world.
True.
But if you want to be successful, then have somebody who will do the legwork for you, who will do who will be able to say, no, wait a minute, don't do that. When you want to buy this big...
Your conscience.
Yes. Yeah.
Your conscience. Someone who's going to knock some sense into you.
Exactly. Who will do that. And you move away from art, get to an individual sport like tennis. I watch it most of the time. Some of the players have got their fathers as coaches.
Managing the space.
Yes. Because you can't think of everything.
On your own.
On your own. You can't.
And also, as an artist, you can't have your mind cluttered, going to perform and
yeah.
At least somebody else must worry about that. When all you have to do is to say, how am I going to serenade these people when I get on stage?
Exactly. Somebody who broke almost that mold and did better than most of us At least I can mention him, Sidwell Mhlongo. With his choir, he didn't do what we had been doing all along. Because with choirs, we just were happy to sing in this competition, win or lose, whatever, then go and sing in another. And he actually, whether he put together a committee that was able to say, let's look at how the choir can get maximum profit from this activity. He's the first one, I think, I may be wrong, but I think he's the first one who decided that, look, even if we're not into we didn't have piano then or whatever, but we're not in the genres of singular performers and all that, or a choir. Even the choir, there must be something that comes to the choir. Not something that comes to the choir and then we're going to bash it in a brain and get it finished just because you have won a competition.
And then automatically you must have a prize. And then it's finished.
Come
next year.
You've got nothing. So it's a question of, you've got to break the mold of just singing. Yes, we love singing. Yeah, we love singing. But let's sit down and say, what happens after the singing? What do you do? And then, how figure kaya, your black tuxedo, white shirt, bow tie, and all that.
Exactly. Oh, you see, yeah, you are coming where I want to, because I did indicate that with your generation, you did it for passion, and ngoku we are trying to move from the passion orientation, also to say, can it be a career?
Yeah. And
you mentioned something very interesting, that colleges were responsible for producing conductors.
Yes.
And with that, I think it's one of the things that we need. Yeah. You have indicated that not all kids will be academics gifted. Others are sport, others are music and any other sector. Now, how do we close the gap? Because our curriculum in music, I'm sure we only see it Sask and in magnet schools. It's a by the way. It's a by the way within the bigger frame curriculum. So how do we close the gap? To say, also we also have colleges that are responsible. In fact, I must just talk to you, because it's a concept that we can work on.
Okay.
To say, let's have a TVET college type of vibe, whereby you don't have to have a matric. You come and do your N1, N2 in music. We must think about it. We must think about it. Pension.
Yeah.
You maximize your time. We just create, and obviously you have been doing it for free. And then this time around, we can even have people paying, so that we can have people that are knowledgeable as adjudicators.
Yeah.
And we are also having people that are qualified within the space, so that we can have a paper that comes with the talent and within a particular sense that says, awenzelelwanga uvelunikwi paper, but it's more like you did go through learning stages, so that it can be probably singakwazi uyenza ibe siya kuba fraternity, sibe industry, the choral industry iya kuba choral fraternity, sibe nemali kuyo.
Yeah. Having done all these things now for all these years, especially starting with music theory, I'm the first one to admit that, depending on the background you've done, music theory can actually be very traumatizing, because it does become mathematical, where you've got to now analyze to Mozart, to ballet in his symphony, kanji, watini, and all that type of thing. You talk about Alberti bass or zonke ezo zinto. It becomes very technical. There are music students who thrive on that. Let them do it, by all means. Nathi ke siyenzile, where you are able to say, okay, fine, final analysis, this is where it is and all that. But then we start making the mistake of taking African composed songs and want to analyze them the way you analyze Western music, which is where the mistake occurs at times.
Ngiyafuna usinike lo analogy. I want you to, we are not leaving before you tell us what is the difference, because sizawusi zento zisixabanisayo singabantu.
Yeah, but then the situation in the Fumene Seikona, like for example, you would find that there are students who go to UCT. Umzwandile Matthews, when he was still in charge, Kusaske, the soloists, we will fumani bursaries to go and study. But now when they get to university, there is this degree called Bachelor of Musicology, which is a 4-year degree. And you don't just walk in there. You must have had music theory up to grade 6, grade 7. You must have had practical, whether it's now with most of our students, practical would be singing.
Yes.
The
Instruments.
You must have had it up to grade 6, grade 7 before you can get into a Bachelor of Musicology degree. Now, many of our schools did not teach anything. I myself, I would say, was a victim of that we had to discontinue in my school, because at that time, under DET, there was nothing that was happening. You would find that there were pockets of schools. I remember at some point, my own children had to write an examination, and I don't know what the reason was. We couldn't write in Springs. We had to go all the way to Rudiport to a school, a music school there, where there was a whole curriculum of music, just for them to go and write an examination, not to go and study there. So you find that there are these schools, pockets all over the place, but otherwise there's nothing happening. To take you back to my my early years, I remember that there was an attempt at teaching music when I was at primary school, and for some reason there's a book whose name has stayed in my mind. It was called Pathway to Music. At that time, I think it was a music theory book. But as to what happened after that, I don't know. Then the next thing, there was just no teaching of music, but there was lots of music, but no teaching of music, because there were choirs all over. You turn right, there's a choir. Left, there's a choir. You go center, there's a choir, but no teaching, except for those who've been taught at the colleges. But even then, they've been taught some degree of music theory. They've been taught solfa. They've been taught how to train a choir, which is why we had so many choirs in the schools.
Okay.
But then, when, I'm not criticizing anybody, but when the new dispensation came into being, colleges of education were done away with.
It disbanded.
Yes. Therefore, the places where those teachers who wanted to teach and then conduct could not be taught, because there was nothing like that. I remember most of us who've been conductors and all that, we would then be asked to come and do workshops before any Turisan or Saske competitions. And those would be one-day workshops. You just go in there, you study the songs that they are going to sing, then you just look for the difficult areas and all that, where you can help the conductors and all that. And I remember after I had done a workshop in Springs some years back, 2 or 3 young conductors came to me and said, "Hey, well, we thank you for all the information you gave us, but we feel we still need more input, because we know nothing. We haven't been trained in music. You just that we have an interest in conducting these children." And that said a lot to me. I spoke to an official then, she's retired now. I said to her, "Look, this one day workshops don't
They're
help.
not useful.
Give me conductors for at least a week. Let them be given permission not to go to school. They come from 9 in the morning until about 3 or so. We work on how to read tonic solfa, how to know what when we talk about time in music, what do we mean? 3 beats in a bar, 4 beats in a bar, what's that? How do you see it on a written score? How do you conduct it? How do you find your keys on a melodica? People who are using melodicas, we've moved from those years where they were using tuning forks. Yeah. Now, when you look at a melodica, you see there's a red mark and there's a blue mark. The red mark is for the Western song. The blue mark is for the African song. And those conductors who decide, no, I'm going to mark. Those who don't mark, they are shown, this is where you should press. I don't know whether it's fact. I was told that there's a teacher who was walking around with the melodica with her finger on the note that was supposed to be played. Now, we want, so I wanted to help such conductors, to say, let them know how to navigate a melodica. How do you get your C from your D, from your F, from your G, or whatever? How do you transit? I mean, when I was still a competitor, a high school competitor, I remember, I'm told, after somebody, I don't know who it was conducting our workshop, and then he talked of, at this point your choir must transit and change key and do all kinds of things. Then he said, one guy said, it's Bo Magangane's choirs will do that. My choir won't do that. I'll just sing. Yeah. So you want to arm people. Let them not just go there and be made a fool of or whatever. And because even with the children, we don't want to lose those children. Imagine a child who sings in a choir that is laughed at by the audience. The child will never want to sing again.
Or the soloist itself.
I'm not going back there. So we don't want to do those things. So then, therefore, how do we close the gap? The gap has got to be closed again. Unfortunately, we've got to first knock at the department, at the government, because they've got to open up centers where children can be taught. And children should not have to get into taxis and buses in order to reach those centers. I don't know what radius, but where there are schools, then there should be a school that will provide or offer arts. They'll tell you that there's something like that currently, but when you come closer, you realize, okay, it's not actually
the actual thing.
The actual thing. You see where exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we even say government, I think we have a social responsibility as human beings.
Yeah.
But again, I think the problem now is no longer about the music, it's a communal challenge.
Yes.
You find that asisena trust actually. Awunoshiya umntana wakho next door ngoku. Uyabuya ethenge ukutya kwendondoni yabona ubalisa story. We are having those problems, which I think if we were to have these activities, somewhat kids are protected, because I would know umntana wam uyarehesa phansi kotata Magangane.
Yes.
But we are not even participating in that. We are having our walls built up because of crime, because of everything and everything. So, okay. But
we shouldn't not talk about it, because somewhere along the line, somebody who may be listening to this later on, in some remote part of the country, may decide, I want to go and do that. Because when you look at some of the programs on TV, you see that there are people who've given themselves to trying to help children. They organize whatever, whether it's bikes, Now, unfortunately, with bikes, we must then find the bicycles themselves. But they try and do things that will occupy the children, so that they are away from the nyaupes and all these other things. When I started with the Guatemala Youth Choir, because I would from time to time call parents' meetings, I ended up getting used to those parents, knowing them now, getting to their homes and all that. I remember the composer I was talking to you about, he actually said in his speech one day, we realized that our parents now were becoming friends, because whenever we performed as the youth choir, they would come to support, and they would meet there, and they had met in the meetings in any case. So now it's still possible to have pockets of that still being, rehashed and things like those. We know we are living in challenging times, but we can't fold our arms and do nothing.
In fact, we must tell them that anikwazi ukanga because kukhona umakanga
Exactly.
that is taking care of you. In fact, no, you are saying something very that probably it is thought provoking, because as much as we're talking about choral music, we naturally stretching it to say what is happening in the society.
Yeah.
Why is choral music like this? Because you were mentioning in the competitions that we're healthy, and yet ours, I'm not sure if they are really healthy. I'm sure it's a balanced diet.
Okay.
As called healthy now, it's a balanced. So, as much as we are addressing the choral challenges, and we are trying to re-engineer the choral space, probably we all. Whatever that we do in our small spaces can influence the area, the ward, the region, the city, to the province level, and we end up having a country that is what we are what we would be proud of. So we have, so academically can be intertwined with music.
Yes.
That one we agree on.
Yeah.
And we cannot let one go without the other. Hence, we are having people that are successful in their art form because they have a backup of knowledge, which is not necessarily formal education, but it is knowledge that has been imparted on them.
Can I share this?
All right.
One of the gentlemen whom we found in the field here, the late composer of Mintiria Bulabula, Kosa. Yeah. One of the stories he shared with us in one of our travels together, he said at some point he was a school principal of a small school. And because he was musical, he made the entire school sing to be involved in choral music. He says that actually improved the results of the school. The fact that the whole school was singing, then it impacted the
positively on the
academic performance of the children. So it's not just a case of singing for singing's sake, but you helping the child develop in the totality,
holistically.
Exactly.
In fact, one of the things I was going to ask is to say, you were passionate in your era, and in our era, I think we concerned about money.
Yeah.
There is that element of money into whatever that we're saying. How much? How much? We don't care if we can do it or not. We'll know that Google will assist me moving forward. Now, do we incentivize teachers for doing extramural activities at schools? It's a thought that probably the teachers don't see a reason to be a conductor, to take kids for sport and everything. So should they be incentivized? To say, okay, for each teacher extramural is of mana whatever compensation from the department. But again, what are we saying? Are we reducing our lives to money? It's a chicken and the hen type of thing. So because the ultimate goal is to say, let's have our kids involved. And how do we have our kids involved if the parents are not involved?
Yeah. Okay, let me try and see whether I can balance this. You said we were responsible for spoiling the situation. But yeah, no, I know. What I also want to indicate is it's not a case of right through we're doing things for free. At the school at which you were, you did things for the kids. Those who took boys to go and do soccer, took girls for netball or basketball then and all that, they were doing it for the kids. And they did not look at any extra remuneration. Not that there were no teachers who were not doing anything. There were some teachers who were just happy with coming in, teaching, and then going out. And we would remain doing all these extramural activities. But then, when, for example, I remember at one point I was asked to come to some district in the Free State to come and work with choirs, and even then it was not a case of working with them from the beginning, but they had already done the first competition. Then I was working with those that
are going to the next level.
We're going to the next level and all that. And actually, I enjoyed myself there. But now in those situations, definitely we would charge, because one, I've got to get into my vehicle and drive there and spend time, whether sleep over there or whatever the case may be. And in those situations, then, because it's outside of your parameters and your area of work, then you are doing something extra now outside, then you charge. It's just not a case that everything was for free. No. Okay. It wasn't. It's just that maybe it was comparing the two situations. Percentage-wise, we didn't go as high as I'm told people go now. Where we thought, okay, fine. I think I should have used that time. Our fine. But yes, when and if there was a need, then we would ask for money. But otherwise, in my school, it would be unheard of for me to go to the principal. But let me then say, I was talking of balance. The other side, because I have looked at this situation now, and I've thought to myself, and even when we discuss amongst friends, you say, maybe the best thing is, because people now are saying, if I'm going to be remaining to do this with the school kids, then I must get more money and all that. Then maybe let people be hired for that thing. Those who will be taking children in sport, then let a person who's sporting be hired for sport and nothing else and be paid. If it's music, let that person be hired for music and be paid. For taking the kids to Eistedt Falls and whatnot, then that person is doing just that. And then these other teachers are busy with academics.
So if you're a teacher and you have the music background, can you be hired?
If you're a teacher and you have yes, you can be hired.
Okay.
If you can make the time
and
do all that, then you can be hired. Because it's a skill that you've paid for.
Actually.
Well. Yes.
And which also assist us in terms of working with the unemployment rate within the country.
Exactly.
Okay. And then you've done a couple of things. And I think one of the things that I would identify as a problem that can be identified as a challenge would be a succession plan.
Mm-hmm.
Whereby if you have been conducting, akomntu uzophinda conduct emva kwakho uyeka kwakho ichayile. Also, I want us to link that to say even how things were done.
Yeah.
Where did it fall? So that we are where we are, whereby abantu bayangapha kuya le. So, and then I'm just putting succession plan as a formal way of putting it.
Yeah. let me say, I think that is the first area where we lost it. People would form a choir because I've been through that as well. Not just to work with school choirs and then find a church choir ready and then just walk in and conduct. We have had to start from scratch with a choir. Well, I've done it with the youth choir, and then we did it with Dr Ludumo choristers, and many other people have done that. Now you find that the biggest undoing is that this is my choir. Nobody will come and tell me how to run this choir and that type of thing. That's just where it gets lost, because it becomes now my fiefdom, and even when we win, I must decide what we do with the money, or it must come into my account, and then I'll
see what to do.
I distribute it to the choir, whatever. Those are all the mistakes that occur along the way. There are other people who have formed choirs, but had the foresight to say, let me get people from within the choir who will then help me run the choir. Others even go outside the choir. Say, these are fine, they'll sing, but let's get people who don't sing, who will then look after their interests, who will organize transport
outfits, and
all those
gigs
things
and stuff.
Yeah. Now, we failed just the way we wanted to do everything in-house.
Oh.
And then you never think of a succession plan. And if maybe by some stroke of luck, your son is singing in the choir, you want to do a hereditary thing.
Oh, yeah.
In some cases, it does become that. And then it just gets destroyed. Because the one who formed it, there are certain things that he was able to do, which the son won't be able to do.
True.
Yeah, it happens. But then I had the fortune, God allowed me to have choirs. And I had, now with the youth choir, I had parents who helped me run the choir. But to a large extent, I was almost the only committee. I remember I had taken one generation of the youth choir. We were going to Melbourne in Australia. So somebody sees these teenagers and then sees me, they realize that, okay, then that one looks like an adult. So he comes to me and says, are you in charge of these children? I said, yeah, and they're required. He says, are you the only one who's going along with them? Where are you going to? I said, no, I'm going to Australia to go and sing at a festival and whatever. So is there nobody helping you? I said, no. Don't they give you trouble? I said, no, they don't. Because as I said, by some stroke of luck, God gave me the ability to be able to instill discipline. And then as soon as they realized, oh, this is what he wants, then that's it. They would just be happy as members and all that. And then, but then, you can't have that situation replicated in many other places. You then need people who do A, B, C, and D. Like having to look for money. Running a choir is expensive. And these days, especially today, you can't go back to parents and say, hey, ask your parents to give you 500 rands.
You?
Where does it come from?
See, unemployed.
Exactly. So you need to have people who will be able to raise money for you. But being in South Africa, there's another truth I want to indicate. Being in South Africa, what determines whether you'll be able to get that money as you look for sponsorship is your color in a number of instances. There are some other fellow Africans maybe who have managed to look for sponsorship successfully. Kudos to them. But, I mean, I won't mention the choir, but there's a choir, black kids, white conductor. They've got the money because he can get the money.
Proximity.
Exactly.
All right.
Now, when we've got to look for money, we've got to think of how do we make fundraising projects, this and the other thing, and so many things.
As we are wrapping, I know that you are a teacher and you are a disciplinarian. I know one person I can call and say, hey, am I lying? They will say, I say, Amaz. How would you want people to remember you in the space, in the choral space, in life, and in general? And how would you want to see choral music unfolding, like in 2 minutes?
2 minutes. Let me try. I would like to be remembered as a person who tried to share music as much as he could. And I think God gave me the vehicle for sharing the music through the youth choir, not through Bonsutu, because those were adults already. I was conducting people who were in their families and all that type of thing. They were mothers, they were fathers. But with the youth choir, they were growing up. We usually say, when you work with young people, you're working with impressionable minds. And you've got to do your best to impart whatever you want to impart to them. So my motto with them was, yes, learn from me as I teach you, but also learn from me by looking at what I do. Because one day, somebody may see you on TV and they find you in some rural place. They say, yeah, we remember seeing you as a member of the Guatemala Youth Choir. We have a choir here and there's no one who can help us. Please come and do it. So I wanted to make sure that those who come through the youth choir and leave, they must leave with something that they also will plant somewhere as they go. I want to be remembered as a person who brought, I would say, happiness to people by bringing them to choral concerts and all that type of thing.
Dr Ludumo Magangane, that we're having a conversation with. My name is ZimSix6, and I'm better known as ZimSix6. You are watching Choral Music Re-Engineered. Thank you very much.